Um, so I'll be giving the lecture today. We're going to be talking about teacher quality, going over some of the articles that I sent you guys last week. And I guess we'll get started. So from the Paleo article, the main article that I forgot to send on the first email, hopefully got the second email, he talks about what teacher quality is. So he explains how teacher quality is a combination of observable and unobservable characteristics. So if we look at some of the observable characteristics, he's got some of the easily observable characteristics such as years of experience and degree level. So if we look at those. And then there were a couple others that he mentioned as well that weren't as easily observable. So those such as the degree, major, or coursework. As well as proxies for teacher ability. Examples of maybe a proxy would be like the quality of the school that the teacher attended or other common tests that teachers take. Earlier tests like the SAT or the ACT or the national teacher exam as well. And then I think the handbook article mentioned the basic determinants of the teacher's pay are going to be these observable characteristics, the years of experience and the degree level. So it's going to be harder to base a teacher's pay based on something that's unobservable. Does that make sense? Okay. So then some unobservable characteristics. So they're obviously not so easily measured. So there's things like classroom management skills. Teacher's philosophy of teaching. So if two different teachers believe they should teach a different way, it's going to be a little bit different. Can everybody read this okay? Is it big enough? And then another unobservable characteristic would be interpersonal or social skills. If your teacher is not as good at interacting with their students as another teacher, they might not necessarily have as good of a quality as the other teacher. And then Blair mentions that there was another study done by Goldhammer et al. In 1999. That they estimated that 97% of teacher quality characteristics are unobservable. So the easiest way to measure things or to measure the teacher's quality is in the smallest percentage of those characteristics, which that just makes it harder, right? Okay. So when looking at, so we're trying to find ways to measure teacher quality, right? So a lot of the most common variables are going to be like the teacher experience. So the most common variables used are going to be experience, certification, so if they have a certification in teaching, subject matter preparation, as well as some, if they have an advanced degree. So like teachers might be of a higher quality if they have a master's degree compared to just a bachelor's degree. And then their ability as well. So those are going to be kind of some of the common things that you'll see in like a lot of the revisions that these people are running in their studies. So now kind of switching over to the Handycheck article. I think that was one I just had to read the introduction and the conclusion for. So usually the teacher's pay is going to be dependent upon the individual results or output. So, in other labor markets besides teachers, usually your pay is dependent on your individual output or results. So like if you're in a factory making, I don't know, shoes, say, if your output is 6 shoes and your neighbor's output is 4 shoes per hour, then your pay is, in theory, going to be higher than your partner's pay. However, in the teacher case, it's going to be a little bit different because it's harder to tell like what the teacher's output is, and how much you're going to be giving, how much extra knowledge you're giving to each of your individual students in that year. So usually the pay for teachers is going to be based upon the degree level and the experience, what we talked about over here. So then, along those same lines then, overall, there's going to be lower pay increases because everyone has to pay the same. You aren't able to differentiate between which teachers that have better value-added results. And in that same article then, Handycheck talks about how teacher quality is the most important part in student achievement. Makes sense, right? Like the teacher is going to be the main influence of how the student's going to do in that particular year. This is assuming that we're kind of talking about like elementary school students where they have the same teacher all day. So they're the most important input into the production of student education. But we have a problem here because we don't really know. We haven't identified teacher characteristics related to how the students perform. So now we're going to look at some graphs quick. regression comparing teacher value added to the percent in college at age 20. So they were seeing how the teacher impacted whether or not at age 20 you would be in college. So if we see here, we've got that positive correlation there. So it's gonna, if the teacher helped them a lot, they're gonna have a higher probability that they're gonna be in college at age 20. If the teacher had a negative value added, so they weren't as helpful to that student in particular, there's a lower probability that they're gonna be in college at age 20. Does that make sense? And a lot of these graphs are kind of going to be the same with different variables here. So this one, they're looking at projected earnings from college at age 20. So when the student is in college at age 20, how much are they expected to earn? And they looked at how the teacher value added had an impact on that. So if, again, it was a positive correlation here. If there's a higher value added, then it's going to be, your expected earnings are going to be a lot higher compared to if you had a poor teacher. You can follow that okay? And then kind of a similar one here. It's actual earnings at age 28. So again, a positive correlation, which is kind of what we hope to see. If the teacher had a positive impact on that student, they're going to have higher earnings at age 28 compared to a teacher with lower quality and didn't influence that student as well. That is a good question. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. It's probably, yeah. And then here's a couple other outcomes in adulthood. So the percentage of females with teenage births, negative correlated, but that's kind of what we hope, right? So if the teacher had a positive influence, there's going to be a lower percentage of females with teenage birth. Whereas if the teacher had a negative impact, there's a higher percentage of female teenagers that are pregnant. And then they looked at percent college graduates at age 29. So if, all right, 25, sorry. If the teacher had a positive impact, then they were going to have a higher probability of graduating college. Whereas if they didn't have as positive an impact, their probability of graduating is a lot lower. Any questions so far?
For the teacher value added, is it saying like every year, like if a student would have a teacher that would have a teacher value added of like -0.1 like every year, or is it just for 1 year?
So it's, the teacher value added is going to be in one specific year for one teacher.
Okay.
So if that one teacher had a positive impact on that student in that year, that's going to be the value added there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So 1 year could change. That's what they're saying?
Yes. Yes, that is what they're saying here. So then if you think about that way, like if you have good teachers for 10 years in a row, is it really likely that they'll have this impact every year? Kind of the downside here. Anybody else? Are we going too fast, too slow? Okay. Looked at other recent studies. So some of the results that they came up with there, for a class total of 20 students, a one teacher standard deviation above the mean increased net present value gains by $400,000 in 1 year. So the teacher with the one standard deviation above the mean increased the total net present value gains for all of her students combined by 400,000. So that's a positive increase, right? So if you add up the net gains from each student, it adds up to $400,000. So kind of along the same lines as the point I just talked to Gabby about here. If students have good teachers year after year, how plausible is it that they're gonna have that, make that gain every year? Like, what do you guys think? Is it likely that that's gonna happen or no? No, I kinda see you shaking heads. Yeah, I think it's not very likely that it'll happen every year, but there'll still be, I think, positive gains, obviously from that teacher quality being positive. And then along the opposite lines, if the teacher has a negative impact, has poor teacher quality, then they're gonna have their decreased lifetime earnings by an amount as well. So, looking at these numbers, if we take the lowest 8% of teachers, lowest quality 8% of teachers, and replace them with median quality teachers. So if we take those at the end of the lowest quality teachers and replace them with the middle quality teachers, in theory, it would raise test scores by 0.4 standard deviations, which is actually a really high amount. So like, kind of in comparison, that would be like making the United States equal to the highest performing country on the international test, which, fun fact, that's Finland, if anybody cares. However, there's downsides to this, like there's gonna be high costs if you're gonna try and do that, if you're gonna replace those lowest quality teachers with median quality teachers. You're gonna have to increase pay to get, for those teachers, as well as the cost for those individual teachers are gonna be higher too, because those 8% aren't gonna be there anymore. And then you have to train more teachers as well, so then they'll have to pay for their education. So let's see. What do you guys think? What makes a good teacher?
Mastery of the subject matter at hand.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, what else?
Relatability.
To students?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And again, these are kind of opinions, so it's not really gonna be a right or wrong answer here.
Communication skills.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, anybody else? Yes, that's good. I was gonna mention that soon. Yeah, like Chris said, kind of everything that we had written on the board before is gonna be, impacting how good of a teacher somebody's gonna be. Does anybody else have any ideas? Okay, so, kind of with some of the things we wrote on the board before, there haven't been sufficient enough results to say, teachers having more schooling produces better student achievement. So, they haven't anyone been able to conclude that the fact that this teacher has a master's degree is better than this teacher not having a master's degree? And yet, why do we still spend $20 million a year on extra wages for these teachers just because they have a higher education? Does that kind of, is that good or bad that it's probably bad that we spend 20 billion extra dollars when this master's degree doesn't necessarily show that the teacher has better quality? And then other studies have like mixed evidence on other aspects such as teacher experience, teacher test scores, like the SAT, ACT. I have a question for you guys. Do students here in high school take the ACT or the SAT? Both. Okay, just a random question, sorry. As well as like that other teacher certification test, the national teacher exam. And then there's still mixed evidence on like the teacher certification. And then kind of again, the master's degrees have no consistent relationship with the student achievement. So then, what kind of, should we do more screening for better teachers when hiring? And how would we do that? So if we wanted to make sure we had high quality teachers, we'd have to be screening for something that's measuring their quality, right? But kind of like we just said, we don't really know exactly what's measuring their quality. So then we don't know what type of screening to do. Okay, any questions at this point? Okay. Okay, so now we're going to look at a specific value-added model that has been studied a little bit. So I'm going to write this out and then I'll explain it after I write it out. Okay, so the A here, is going to be the achievement in grade G. So each G here is going to stand for a specific grade. And then this G minus 1 here is going to be the grade previous to the one they're looking at.
Grade level.
Grade level. Yes. And then again, the I is kind of similar to like other models we've looked at. It's just each for each student. Then this A is going to be just the achievement in the grade previous. And S that's this one here, the SIG. And then X is gonna be individual, family, and as well as neighborhood characteristics. Okay, and then this tau parameter here, that one's gonna be measuring the teacher. So tau J is the parameter for every teacher J of all their students. So the J is gonna be looking at a specific teacher, whereas the I is looking at students. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions so far? I'll give you a minute to write that down quick. Okay, so in this particular model here, we're looking at the effects of all these things, right, on the student achievement in a particular grade. So we're gonna see how, basically what our main goal is looking at the tau here, to see how the teacher affects the student. So then we're gonna be controlling for their achievement in the previous grade. So kind of like seeing how intelligent they were previous to coming to that class. And then as well as controlling for the school and peer characteristics, so kind of their surroundings in that particular grade, as well as individual, family, and neighborhood characteristics. So kind of like what their life is like at home. And then of course we got that error chain. So we're kind of looking at just kind of, yeah.
For the achievement in grade G for the like theta A, is that G minus 1?
Yeah, G minus 1. Okay, so kind of in general here, we're looking at basically just like looking at the difference in 2 years. So like, so how is their difference, their achievement difference affected by the teacher tau for that particular classroom? And then of course we're always concerned with